What's up, everybody? It's James, and welcome to yet another episode of Gustin Time. Today, we're going to finish up the Paul Bennewitz trilogy, but first, I'm going to talk about some news. I know I usually don't do this, but this is some really important news. We're going to talk about some astronomy news. Actually, it's more like astronomer news. I'm sure by now you've all seen the kiss cam from the Coldplay concert and that fucking idiot who was cheating on his wife with the head of HR of his own fucking company. Well, I read his official statement online yesterday, and what the fuck? He said that what was supposed to be a private moment has ruined his life and his career. And he's thinking about suing Coldplay over it. Dude, you got caught cheating on your wife, okay? You can't play that fucking victim card. You are the one, sir, who fucked up, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, Coldplay should be sued, and I should sue them for all of the fucking decades of them assaulting my ears with their shitty music. I am not a Coldplay fan, all right? Fucking Yellow, whatever. Go fuck yourself, all right? But this guy's a massive piece of shit, and naming his company Astronomer is just fucking ridiculous in the first place. He's not an astronomer. I'm pretty sure astronomers don't fucking listen to Coldplay. All right. But regardless, I'm just really fucking baffled by the fact that this guy's trying to play the victim when he's the one who fucked up in the first place. All right. Whatever. I'm done talking about that. No more news. However, it is time to talk about Mr. Paul Bennewitz. So this is the third in a series of 3. We talked about Paul and how he ended up in New Mexico, how smart he was, what he did in the Coast Guard in World War II, Thunder Scientific, his company, talked about how he got into UFOs, talked about Myrna Hansen and all the crazy shit that went down with her. And we talked about how he started seeing shit coming out of a mountain and picking up some signals that he couldn't identify. And then we talked about how he lost his fucking mind. So, what are we going to talk about now? Well, we're going to talk about how Paul lost his mind, why he lost his mind, and what actually happened to Paul Bennewitz. But before we do that, it's time for a little wardrobe change. As we all know, this is the third in the series of 3. This is the finale of the Paul Bennewitz story. Gotta wear the alien glasses, and I have a very special hat for the Paul Bennewitz story today. That's right. Tinfoil hat time, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so what happened to Paul? Why did he lose his fucking mind? Well, it all started back at that meeting or whatever it was that they had about cattle mutilations when the government first got Paul on their radar. He met that police officer who was investigating the cattle mutilations, but there was someone else there, someone who's very important to this story, and his name is Richard Doty. Some of you may recognize that name, and you should, but here's where it gets fucked up. Okay, and this is why I think that Paul Bennewitz got his life ruined by Richard Doty. Okay, Richard Doty claims to be a government agent. To this day, claims that he was or still is a government agent. What did he specialize in? Disinformation. Yeah, he was a big part of a lot of cover-ups. So was Paul seeing weird things in the sky and picking up radio signals he didn't understand? Absolutely he was. But you got to remember where Paul Benowitz lived, okay? He lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. New Mexico, southern Colorado, where I live, there's a lot of military activity. And there's a lot of open space, a lot of open sky, and not a lot of people. So it's a perfect place to test some aircraft, right? So what Paul was actually seeing was a top secret airplane being test flown in New Mexico. There's some speculation that it was the B-2 bomber, America and the world's first stealth aircraft. That could be the plane, but definitely he was seeing some kind of top secret aircraft, and the radio signals he was intercepting were for the test flights. They had to be hidden, so not every average Joe could pick them up. Paul was not your average Joe, okay? Paul had all of this radio equipment in his basement. You know, he was taking this stuff very seriously. But why didn't he put two and two together and figure out that it was an aircraft being test flown? This is where Richard M. Doty comes into the story. So Paul gets in contact with Richard Doty, and he tells him what he's seeing. And what does Richard Doty do? He goes, "Oh, this is all very interesting. Let me see everything you have. I have to see this. We're going to get to the bottom of this." So Paul gives him all this information. And what does Richard Doty do? He says, "Yeah, Paul, you're seeing stuff that I don't know what it is. There's some kind of weird phenomenon going on in the sky, and you're picking up these radio signals. It's got to be a communications signal from these craft you're seeing. Oh my God, it's a UFO." So he intentionally leads Paul Benowitz down this path of, yes, you're actually seeing UFOs. You're intercepting communications from them. That's what's happening. And I'm going to help you figure out what the hell's going on. We're going to get these UFOs. So Paul goes all fucking gung-ho on this because Richard Doty actually works for the fucking government. Do you see what I'm getting at here? It's ridiculous that this is done to normal people. But that's not the first time that the U.S. government has done something like this. We'll get into that right after this commercial break. Stay tuned. This episode of Gustin Time is brought to you by Dubby. Are you sick and tired of all these energy drinks that load you up with sugar and give you a big crash at the end of the day? Try Dubby. Dubby uses coffee fruit extract to give you the caffeine that you need to get through the day. No bullshit, no other crap that's going to make you feel like total ass, okay? And if you go to www.dubby.gg and use the discount code GustinTime at checkout, you'll receive 10% off your order. That's right, 10% when you use the code GustinTime at checkout. So give Dubby a try. You make it yourself so you always have it with you. Thank you. And we're back. So, I thought I'd give you a little commercial break there to kind of digest all of the stuff I just said. So, let's talk about other nefarious things that the U.S. government has done to its citizens and even to its employees. A lot of you may have heard of a little program called MK Ultra, which absolutely was real and it did happen. It did not end in the 1960s when they said it did. Went all the way through the 70s into the 80s. If you're not familiar with MK Ultra, I'm going to run that down a little bit for you. So what MK Ultra was the U.S. government had a bunch of doctors, and they would get these soldiers to come in, and they would do medical experiments on them. They were originally trying to create a super soldier. So they would inject these servicemen with LSD, other kinds of mind-altering chemicals. They would show them all of these flashing images. Some of them were very nice, like puppies and flowers and kittens and shit. But intertwined in there, they would show violence, death, gore, pornography, all kinds of shit, trying to mentally break these soldiers so they could reprogram their minds to be absolutely subservient to the US government and make them super strong. They were trying to break the psyche of these human beings and turn them into essentially weapons, which is pretty fucking disgusting because these guys didn't volunteer for that. They were subjected to it. Now, after that stuff ended, they moved on to trying to weaponize the paranormal, just like the Soviet Union and the Russians did. So they were getting Satanists and Wiccans and witches and warlocks, people who claimed to have all of these supernatural abilities, and they were trying to do the same thing to these people. Now, those people weren't always in the military, just regular-ass people. I don't understand why we're trying to make super weapons out of human beings. I mean, it seems kind of cruel. So that's a little backstory on MK Ultra and all of the nefarious shit that people all over the world have done trying to turn human beings, people like you and me, into super soldiers and weapons. Kind of disgusting. Anyway, let's get back on track here with Paul. So Richard Doty's feeding Paul Benowitz all of these fucking stories and, oh, I'm going to help you. We're going to get these aliens. It might be an invasion, all of this. And this is a guy from the government, so Paul takes it very seriously. And he starts obsessing over it. And you know, when you start obsessing over things, you go a little cuckoo sometimes. Well, Richard Doty kept feeding him all of this shit, and Paul kept believing it. So yeah, he lost his fucking mind. He ended up getting institutionalized. They put him in the nut house because of how crazy he went over this Richard Doty alien bullshit that was all a fucking lie to begin with. I know this is supposed to be a paranormal podcast where I talk about, is this stuff real? Let's see some evidence, all that. And yeah, I'm wearing the tinfoil hat, and I believe there's something going on. But it's also important to realize that there's a lot of fakery and a lot of trickery going on in this field, and there are some people you shouldn't trust. Richard Doty being one of them. And the craziest part about all of this is Richard Doty still goes to UFO conventions. He's still very involved in the field, and people still fucking listen to him. He's in documentaries all the time. People are taking his word as truth after he has been proven and admitted to being a disinformation agent on this subject. I don't understand how this guy has any credibility anymore, but he does. I don't listen to him. You shouldn't either. But if you do listen to him, look at him. Watch his face. One thing Richard Doty does a lot when he starts talking about disinformation and all of this shit is he smiles just ever so slightly. Now, of course, being a disinformation agent, he knows all of the tells and all of this shit. So he's still doing what he fucking did to Paul. I'm pretty sure of it. He's still feeding false information into this community, trying to make us all think that we're seeing aliens and spacecraft when we're actually seeing top secret government projects. Now, I'm not saying all of those are top secret government projects. I'm sure that people are seeing some kind of weird phenomenon in the sky. I'm positive of it. I've seen it myself. I've experienced it. Now, a lot of them, I'm sure, have been some kind of government project. I'm not one to think that aliens are coming down from the heavens from another planet and visiting us. I don't think that's happening at all. I think it's something else entirely, which we will get into in this podcast. But look, if I was an alien and I was flying my spaceship around, I zoomed over by Earth, I'm like, I'm going to check out this planet. I'd look down and go, holy shit, these people are still killing each other. They've got nuclear weapons. They can't even get along with their own fucking race. I'm out. I'm not going down there. That's what I would do if I was an alien. But who knows? I mean, there could also be the Prime Directive from Star Trek. We all know what that is, right? You can't interfere with civilization because it might lead them down a destructive path or it might change the future of their outcome. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's not aliens. We're going to get into what I think it is later on in this series. But guys, this is the last of the Paul Benowitz trilogy. That's it. So what's coming up? What's next? Well, I'm in talk with my co-host, who you will all meet soon. We're going to start doing this back and forth. We're going to talk about all kinds of weird shit, not just UFOs. We're going to talk about ghosts, Bigfoot, interdimensional portals, weird shit going on in Utah. A couple of ranches out there that have some crazy shit going on. I want to get into that. What else is going on? Your boy, yes, me, the guy in the fucking tinfoil hat and alien glasses, has been invited to do an episode of Gustin Time at a fucking haunted hotel. Yes, a haunted hotel right here in the San Luis Valley. Excuse me. I have been invited to do an episode of my podcast in this hotel. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to put together a team of people who want to go investigate this. And I want to do a live episode of Gustin Time from a haunted hotel, stream it on the internet, have you guys involved in this investigation. Because a lot of ghost teams, they go in there and they're like, oh, did you hear that? Oh, it's a ghost. Nah, I'm going in there with some fucking cameras, some fucking equipment. We're not going to do all the typical ghost hunting shit. All right, we're going to do something a little different. Go in there and actually investigate. Not just do this shit for TV and entertainment. We're going to like take readings and yeah, you see a lot of that on TV, but 90% of that is staged, unfortunately. So when is this going to happen? Not sure yet. I got to talk to the owner of the hotel. I want to try and do it sometime in October because it's spooky season. But that all depends on if I can get this team together. I needed a little bit more equipment. I got to fix some stuff. My audio interface is fucking cooked. Tried to fix that. It's done. So still on the phone for now, but we're going to get that fixed. I'm going to get a new microphone or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm excited for the future, guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I guess that's it. This is the end of the trilogy. None of this makes any sense. And remember, I will see you in time. Gustin time, that is. Peace!